Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. So let's see this. Yes, yesterday we did not have any words, and therefore I had not taken words. But yes, that will be today. We have many words, many in the sense almost double the words that we usually do every day, almost double. So let's see what we have today here in the editorial explained, February 28th, the last day of the month. The first editorial of Indian Express says arresting Mr. Sisodia. So, what about this arrest? What are the implications of this arrest? What is can be inferred from this arrest? See, we'll be understanding a few questions from this article also. Here, the arrest of Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia by the CBI Sunday comes in the case of a liquor policy seen to be controversial in the national capital at least since last July. So it is seen to be controversial. It may or may not be, but yes, it is seen to be controversial. That was when Delhi's chief secretary submitted a report to the LG office alleging procedural lapses, and the LG wrote to the Union Home Ministry recommending a CBI inquiry. This was recommended. The month ended with the policy being summarily rolled back and a return to the old excise policy. So you can understand what is the problem here, right? There was a policy, the main point, policy which seemed to be controversial, right? Then it was alleged that is there are lapses in the policy. What was recommended? An inquiry was recommended. And what? How did it take place then? No, what took place here? Did the inquiry happen? No, the inquiry did not take place. So, what happened then? It was rolled back. The policy was rolled back, right? And finally, it came back to the old policy. जो पहले पॉलिसी थी वो उस पे आ गए. ठीक है, तो न्यू पॉलिसी बनाई थी जो कि कंट्रोवर्शियल लगी. ठीक है, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम से उसे आइडेंटिफाई किए गए. एलिज्ड मींस इट वाज मेंशन्ड. They demanded an inquiry, but it was rolled back, and the old policy was again seen. Now, the month ended with the policy being summarily rolled back and a return to the old excise policy by the Arvind Kejriwal government. Certainly, the CBI must investigate. Here comes the author's point. ये पूरा तो इसका, it was like narrating, right? It was a narration, a step-by-step thing of what had happened, right? So this part of the paragraph, if I talk about the style, this would be like just a narrative style. So now comes the author's point here that the CBI must investigate allegations of wrongdoing in, for instance, an increase in the profit margin for wholesalers from 6% to 12% from the old policy to the new. The law must take its course vis-a-vis Mr. Sisodia, Minister Sisodia, as it must for others accused in the case. And yet herein lies the nub. Nub means the crux of the matter, the problem of the matter, right? So the essence of the matter, ये रहा author की main point. And what is that? So based on this narration, he points out that yes, the CBI must investigate. Fine. How should it investigate? Who should it investigate? Or in what manner should the investigation take place? So it should take place according to as it would have taken place in case it was not Mr. Sisodia, it was somebody else. Fine. The author says there is no discrimination to be done. But then he says, yes, this is the point. Herein lies the nub. The high profile arrest of Sisodia cannot be divorced from the larger political pattern it also seems to be part of. ये हुआ है इसका implied point or inference, you can say, that this was from the whole paragraph. What? Let's see, this is a high profile arrest, and it is a high profile arrest. That means there is something large, a political pattern that is going on, and we need to, as as maybe the common man is not able to understand this pattern, but this is the author's task, and therefore he is doing it according to him. So the high profile arrest of Sisodia cannot be diverse from the larger political pattern. It also seems to be part of. This pattern has been firming up steadily of central agencies being used to target political opponent. Right? This pattern is what? So whatever the central agencies of the country are, they are being used by the government to target the opponent. It raises disquieting questions about process becoming punishment and an increasingly apparent convergence between the ruling party's pet political peeves and action by the CBI and ED. Right? Now, see, this last part of the paragraph is actually talking about what this entire matter indicates, or what can be understood, or what needs to be inferred. Right? कोई भी ऐसा question आएगा, you will get the answer here. So, what needs to be inferred or what can be inferred will be that yes, there is something going on between the agencies, the central agencies, and the government, the ruling government. Now, it is not necessary that it is this particular government who does so, right? Any point of time, any ruling government, any party would be there, but it is taking the help of the central agencies to target the opponent party, right? Political opponents. So here comes the main point. As I said, liquor policy seemed to be controversial in the national capital at least. Then the CBI must investigate allegations of wrongdoing. This was what the author's point was, and I had pointed this out. This high profile arrest of Sisodia cannot be diverged from the larger, so this becomes the author's concluding point, you can say, in this particular matter. इसे हम अलग नहीं कर सकते हैं. So we need to understand the larger political pattern. And larger political pattern, if I take this sentence as a conclusion, I have this part as somewhere in the assumption. So what is the assumption? That yes, the political parties are in link with the central agencies. And this particular connection or convergence is raising disquieting questions. Disquieting would mean disturbing. तो ये जो कनेक्शंस बन रहा है रूलिंग पार्टी का और सीबीआई एंड ईडी का, मतलब सेंट्रल एजेंसीज का और रूलिंग पार्टी का, इन दोनों का कनेक्शन बन रहा है. तो ये दोनों कनेक्शन अगर मतलब एक साथ मिलके ओपोनेंट को टारगेट करते हैं तो दिस बिकम्स a disturbing thought, you can say. Next para. It is a continuation of the same thing. So that pattern and this convergence risk undermining the public trust in premier agencies, even as they send out a chilling signal to the opposition, which is already on the back foot electorally. Right? A chilling would mean like a warning sign. क्योंकि सिग्नल है तो उसका वार्निंग साइन आप कर सकते हो. Of course, central agencies like the CBI and ED have always had their strings pulled by whoever is in power. This is what I was saying, that it is not necessary that the existing ruling party is doing this. It can be done by whoever is in power. Being having their strings pulled का मतलब होता है जैसे एक कठपुतली चलती है, ठीक है, या उसको चलाया जाता है, तो somebody else is pulling the strings. Right. In that way, it is called they have their strings pulled by whoever is in power. And yet, as an investigation by this paper showed in September last year, the case book of the CBI, which had infamously earned the label of caged parrot, that means the CBI was termed as a caged parrot. एक ऐसा तोता है जिसको पिंजरे में बंद कर रखा है. इसका मतलब वो अपने आजादी से उड़ नहीं सकता है. Right? So that means if the CBI and the ED are being pulled by or being directed by the ruling party, whoever or whichever it is, right? That means they are the caged parrots. What does this reveal? It reveals a sharp spike in the number of opposition politicians and the close relatives under its scanner since 2014. That means since 2014, there have been how many? 124 prominent politicians who had been under CBI probe since that year. As many as 180 of them are from the opposition. So this is a staggering 95%. So now you can understand the meaning of staggering. up from 60% during the UPA years. That means when the Congress was there, when the UPA was there, that alliance, right? There were 60%. How as many as they were? What do you say? They were under the CBI probe. Out of those people, only 60% were from the opposing party, opponent party, and 40% were from the ruling party, you can say. But this time it is 95% from the opposing party and it's only 5% of the ruling one. So, what is also evident is that the noise around CBI ED action has become much more nasty and brutish. Brutish is very cruel, partisan and political than before. This is how this action has been named. Nasty, brutish, partisan, political. Partisan means taking somebody's side. The ruling party is conspicuously complicit in this. Complicit is again being involved in this wrongdoing or being involved in any matter. So, conspicuous is something that is very much seen, apparent, or obviously. Right? Conspicuous is, what do you say, prominent. So, obviously, they are hand and glove with it, or complicit with the hand and glove. Or also you can say in cahoots. This is another idiom. So that Sisodia and his party would seek to ratchet up the decibel levels around his arrest was foretold. But the threat making and loose talk by leaders in the BJP and its government on Arvind Kejriwal being the kingpin and the next target clouds an already murky scene of arrest. So this murky scene of arrest, murky is muddy, and clouds means again it would create a shadow on this muddy scene. मतलब जो muddy है already उसको और cloudy बना दे रहा है. Cloudy is unclear. So here they send out a chilling signal, a warning sign, and then there was the data given here. And now what is evident from the data is that this action has become nasty, brutish, partisan, political, right? And the opponent, or rather the ruling party, is in cahoots with the central agencies, and it is already making the already dirty scene more dirty. Now, for the AAP, which emerged from the anti corruption movement and built its political capital on the promise of transparent governance, arrest of its number two in party and government following the incarceration of Minister Satyendra Jain in a money laundering case last year is a formidable challenge days ahead of the presentation of the budget. Formidable is something that is quite threatening, intimidating, you can say. Right. So this person who is was the main person in the party, he had been in the case of money laundering, and now it is this Mr. Sisodia who is being alleged or rather charged. Now it can't brush it under the Gautam Adani carpet as some of its leaders have tried to do. Now brush it under the carpet. ये गौतम अदानी हो या नहीं हो इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. The idiom is brush it under the carpet or brush something under the carpet. Now how would you do it? As I say that you consider the idiom literally and then apply it contextually. So when there's a carpet in the room, you pick up the carpet and you put all the dust inside. So your room will seem to be clean, not dirty at all, not a mess at all, but that dirt and that problem is under the carpet. That means it has been covered. So, this is what these people cannot brush all these things under the carpet, as some of its leaders have tried to do. It needs to come clean and explain more convincingly than it has done so far why it rolled back what is called a reformist policy. The initial question was this only, that they had rolled it back. Now the question arises again, why did they do so? So they need to give a clarification of it. At the same time, Sisodia's arrest, the court sent him to 5-day custody Monday, revised questions from about due process and political vindictiveness, right? So because they arrested him, so now it also questions what is the process of such an elite or high level or high profile, you can say, as you say, high profile arrest. What is the process and what about the political vindictiveness? How the CBI proceeds in this case will test the agency's credibility. That means whether this agency is working on its own or whether it is being pulled or forced by the ruling government. So this is going to test the agency's credibility. So in the run-up to the general elections 2024, the CBI's prosecution of political leaders and the alleged contacts will be watched carefully. मतलब कितने और लोगों को वो टारगेट करते हैं ये देखा जाएगा कि रूलिंग पार्टी के भी करते हैं या सिर्फ ओपोनेंट पार्टी के करते हैं. That is what is to be seen. So a formidable challenge days ahead of the presentation. It can't brush it under the Gautam Adani carpet. Fine. Why it rolled back what it called its reformist policy. And then in the run up to the general elections, the last line, and this will be watched carefully. So that ends the passage actually. And the main idea is given here. Needs to insulate the due process. AAP needs a better defense than outrage. Outrage is like out and rage, coming directly and stating something very indignantly, right? So you don't need to just show your disapproval over what is going on or what has happened. You need to come up with a better defense. That means you need to defend the allegations that have been thrown on you. ठीक है उसके लिए एक अपना केस उन्हें स्ट्रॉन्ग करना पड़ेगा वो सिर्फ गुस्सा नहीं दिखा सकते अपने केस को बिल्ड करके अपना जस्टिफिकेशन देना पड़ेगा आप पार्टी को. Here comes the vocabulary, and yes, those who love words will be quite happy with it. So, controversial is something that is contentious, debatable, right? Contest, so disputable. जिसपे डिस्प्यूट हो सके जिसपे कॉन्टेस्ट हो सके जिसपे ये कंटेंशन आ सके यानी you can raise a contention, so it is controversial. Though these are simple words also, but I'm still giving you better words for it. Allegation is something that is like an assertion that yes, this is what they have done. वो allegation हो जाता है in the sense like blaming, but blaming assertively, right? Acquisition नहीं आएगा. You can write assertively blaming something or claiming in the sense of not acquiring. ठीक है देखो वर्ड मैंने लिखा है लेकिन इस वर्ड का मीनिंग भी अलग होता है. क्लेम यानी अक्वायर करना नहीं होता है. क्लेम यानी राइट होता है. बट क्लेम इज समथिंग दैट इज स्टेटेड वेरी not rather defiantly but yes stated very firmly that there's a blame on it. Vis-a-vis is as compared to. Nub, as I said, it's the core or the crux, essence. Diverged is detached, unconnected, separated. Disquieting is disturbing. Peeves, जिसे हमने कभी वर्ड किया होगा peevish. So that is how the peeves are, the irritation, bother, or the vexation. Chilling signal we did. Chilling is frightening, threatening. Infamously is right. Yeah, spoiling your name. The spoiling your name का मतलब होता है notorious, scandalous या disreputable. हम reputable करते हैं उसको जिसका नाम बनता है. जो बदनाम होता है वो disreputable होता है. Brutish is cruel, insensitive, harsh. Conspicuously is evidently, clearly, obviously. Complicit is involved in immoral or unlawful activities. Clouds, ठीक है तो मिस्टी और हेजी it would cloud the already क्या था उसमें already murky thing. So murky is murky era, cloudy, dark, shadowy, muddy. So already something that is muddy and it is becoming hazy and misty also. So unclear. Incarceration is where you put somebody in prison. So imprisoned is the simple word for it. And then detention or captivity. Captivity में मतलब पकड़ के रखना उसे और detention यानी रोक के रखना. So that is similar to being imprisoned. To brush it under the carpet is keeping a problem secret or anonymity or in anonymity. Vindictiveness is malice, spite, malevolence. And credibility, of course, we have the root word cred. Cred means believe. So credibility is the integrity or plausibility. Nasty is something that is horrible, offensive, and outrage is violence, indignation. Not necessarily violence, पर पब्लिक आउटरेज होता है कि बहुत ज्यादा गुस्से में आता है तो कभी कभी वो मॉब जो है वो वायलेंट बन जाता है. तो आउटरेज का मीनिंग वायलेंस जरूरी नहीं है, बट यस इंडिग्नेशन, डिसअप्रूवल एंड अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग वन. A strong disapproval will be called as an outrage. और outrage मतलब गुस्सा और गुस्से को बाहर कर दे, बाहर निकालना. तो डायरेक्टली आप किसी को कन्फ्रंट करके जब गुस्सा दिखाते हो तो वो आउटरेज होता है. ठीक है, तो जब सड़कों पे लोग आ जाते हैं, प्रोटेस्टर्स जो होते हैं, so that is how the rage is shown to the government, right? It is not a quiet one. साइलेंट प्रोटेस्ट नहीं होता है, पर सामने दिख जाता है लोगों को या गवर्नमेंट को, वो उसे कहते हैं हम आउटरीच, राइट? So you have enough words for today and kindly note them down and revise. Yes, of course, the week has started, a new week has started. So though you have the daily task, but still keep revising whatever you have done earlier in your earlier January and February months, right? So thank you and have a logical day ahead.